Hello and welcome to the latest of WebbPaton's Rural Updates, presented to you by me, Harriet Riggall, and my colleague George King. If you've missed any of our previous rural updates, please don't worry. You can catch up by visiting our website, Facebook page or YouTube page, and we'll post links to those later on. Now this week, George and I are going to talk about compensation claims. So George, can you begin by telling me in what circumstances I might find myself claiming compensation?
Well, Harriet, firstly, it is important to know who has the power to enter onto your land. The most commonly seen in practice are the powers exercised by the utility companies. Water authorities, under the Water Industry Act 1991, have the power to enter onto your land to undertake necessary works. In most instances, a notice must be served on the respective landowner detailing the date of entry, the timescales of which are governed by the type of work involved. The installation of new pipes requires 3 months notice. The alteration of existing pipes requires 42 days notice. And in the event of emergency, no notice is required. These notice periods can sometimes be shortened by agreement between parties, often in return for a payment to the landowner.
And George, I've seen on many farms that electricity and gas supplies run across the land. Do these companies follow the same rules?
Not exactly, Harriet. Electricity companies still need permission to install their equipment on, over, or under private land. However, it is common practice for electricity companies to try to negotiate this permission with landowners directly. If these negotiations fail, then electricity companies can invoke a more formal process using compulsory purchase powers. Public gas suppliers also attempt to acquire any necessary rights by agreement, as the procedure for obtaining a compulsory purchase order can take a considerably long time.
And George, can you tell me what a typical process for claiming compensation would be?
Firstly, Harriet, the relevant company should make contact with you to detail the work involved and when they will require entry, often directly through their own agent. At this point, you can inform WebbPaton and instruct us to act on your behalf in order for us to enter into any negotiations, including agreeing any necessary accommodation works. In addition, it is typical practice for authorities to pay all reasonable and necessary agent fees as part of a compensation claim, so no need for you to worry there. Following that, and arguably the most important thing with any project like this, is to always ensure a photographic record of condition has been taken of the site before the contractors enter onto the land, as this will act as your safety net when claiming for compensation. We can do this for you if necessary.
But George, shouldn't the contractors of the relevant authority do this?
Yes, Harriet, they should. However, time and time again, we have seen instances where an inadequate record has been taken, or it does not happen at all. Therefore, you should ensure that you or the instructed member of WebbPaton have taken your own records. You will not get a chance to do this once the works have commenced, as the land will undoubtedly have been materially changed.
So what happens next?
Well, Harriet, next the contractors will undertake the necessary works, usually by creating a great deal of mess. Once these works have been completed, they should reinstate the land to the same condition as they found it. However, just because the contractors are on site does not mean you have to simply leave it to them. I would always recommend keeping your agent up to date with the progress, as there may be certain elements of the work that require discussions. For example, a variation in the access route.
Okay, George, the contractors have completed the works and reinstated the land. How do I make my claim for compensation?
Right, Harriet. Firstly, we need to know what works have been undertaken. Has any physical interest in the land been permanently taken, such as the installation of a new pipe, or has the surface of the land been disturbed in order to obtain access to existing equipment? If it is the former, as a landowner, you will be able to claim a proportion of the open market value of the land taken. The value of the land taken is dictated by the different pieces of legislation that the acquiring authorities are governed by. For example, the Water Industry Act will typically pay the landowner 50% of the open market value of the land, as determined in the court case by St. John College v Thames Water. If no land has been taken, then the landowner or occupier will be able to make a claim for disturbance. This can include the cost of rectifying any poor reinstatement works, any crop loss and subsidy losses, or any time which you have incurred dealing with the project. Claims are typically agreed and settled through negotiation between your agent and the authority's agent, and will require the submission of evidence to support the compensation value. This is where the record of condition is extremely useful.
Thanks, George. So I now feel pretty up to date with the mechanism behind the works undertaken by utility companies, but are there any other scenarios that I should be aware of?
Yes, Harriet, there are. We are seeing more and more infrastructure projects being proposed, such as HS2 and large-scale road schemes. These schemes rely on compulsory purchase powers, which are extremely complicated and very time-consuming. Professional advice should always be sought at the earliest opportunity after receiving any form of notice of such a proposed scheme.
Thank you, George. You've detailed a number of different elements to take into account when dealing with compensation claims, but can you please just highlight a few of the important ones to remember?
Absolutely, Harriet. Firstly, always instruct a member of WebbPaton as soon as you receive any notice of any proposed works. Do not forget that the relevant authority should pay our reasonable and necessary fees. Secondly, always ensure that a record of condition has been completed. And lastly, remember to keep a record of your own time dealing with the project, as this can be included within the final compensation claim.
Thank you, George, for giving us a quick update on the process for claiming compensation. Once again, we hope you've enjoyed our rural update. Thank you for watching and hopefully see you all soon.